Latina Leaders Rising. It's a special series on Latinas who are impacting our country from the California coast to New York City, all the way down to El Paso, Miami, Texas, Chicago, you name it. Latinas are rising across this country. And today I have such an honor to interview the Honorable Hydee Feldstein Soto, Los Angeles' first Latina City Attorney. She's been in Los Angeles 40 years, so that's her home. And she was the first Latina elected across the city. About time, wouldn't you say? But here's the deal. She supervises 1,000 legal professionals. That would be so hard, Hydee. I mean, just having that many lawyers in the room and 550 attorneys. So she is a strong Latina who really knows who she is and is making such a big difference. So Hydee, tell me a little bit about you. I know you were born in Puerto Rico, and you have both a Jewish background and a Latino background, which makes you really unique. Can you tell me a little bit about your family and how you grew up?
First of all, Juana, let me say how delighted I am to be here with you. This is such a pleasure. We've known each other for a little bit, and I just think you're fabulous.
Well,
so
I think you're fabulous. And I want you to talk about what a hard campaign this was, because you really went through it was almost like a football game, you know, all the tackling and the changing you did to get there. And I was so proud when it happened. So tell us a little bit about your origin story.
I was born in Rio Piedras, Puerto Rico.
Oh, yeah, Rio Piedras.
Suburb of San Juan. I am a third generation Puerto Rican on my mother's side. My father was a New York Jew. And when my parents wanted to get married in 1954 in Puerto Rico, they had trouble. There was no one who would marry a Jew from the States with a Puerto Rican Catholic. So the rabbi wouldn't marry them. The priest wouldn't marry them. The only person they got to marry them, they had a ceremony in my mother's grandmother's backyard. And they were married by the only Black judge on the Puerto Rican Supreme Court at the time. And so 1954 was also, I believe, the year of the case of Loving versus Virginia, which of course was the case that undid the laws against intermarriage, racial intermarriage in the States. So it was a meaningful year. I came along in 1958, and I have a younger brother, and I lived in Puerto Rico until I graduated from high school. My parents lived there for another 15 years after I graduated.
Did your father leave New York and go to Puerto Rico?
He did. My father was the first member of his family to go to college, much less law school. And he went to college and law school on the GI Bill. He was in the Army, and he was an Army sergeant. And after World War II, he went to school. And what he found was that he went down on vacation to Puerto Rico. His eldest brother had the common sense and good taste to marry a Puerto Rican woman in New York and move to the island. So when Dad went down on vacation in February, he basically looked around and said, "What am I doing going back to New York? I found paradise." And so he stayed in Puerto Rico.
And he found himself a paradise woman.
Yes, he did. He also, he was a lawyer in Puerto Rico for decades. He was very well known. The name of his law firm at the end was Feldstein, Hernandez y Gotay. So there you go.
So translate that for me.
That's just a bunch of names. Feldstein was his name, and his partners were Gustavo Helpi, Gabriel Hernandez, Francisco Gotay. So there you go.
Oh, how wonderful. Well, you know, that is quite a story, because when I write about the Latino culture, because we're a culture and ethnic group, I always say that the closest connection to us is the Jewish community. And not to mention that a third of Spain was Jewish when Christopher Columbus left. So
yeah, before we all were convertidos, but we won't go there.
Yeah, no, but our cultures are so well connected. Did you find that as a child, that there was all these values and these traditions that went back and forth?
Well, it was actually a little bit different, because I didn't really fit in comfortably anywhere. My mother was Catholic, so the Jewish community considered me not Jewish, despite my last name. I actually converted when I was a teenager. to Judaism. So I am officially a Jew. But when I was a young child, I wasn't. And the Puerto Rican community considered me a gringa because I had this last name Feldstein. So I spent a long time trying to figure out where I fit in. And here's the secret. I concluded that because I didn't fit in squarely anywhere, that was a strength. And it meant I had the possibility of fitting in everywhere. So
When did you make
took
that
and ran
decision?
with it.
That is a really good one. How old were you? Do you remember?
I think I was 8 or 9.
Because you know,
I was in
that,
3rd or 4th grade.
yeah, that is called reframing or transforming, taking something that could have been a challenge, you know, poor me, nobody loves me, into wow, I can go anywhere.
I'm not a poor me sort of a woman, Juana. You know that about me.
And how has this served you?
Um, it served me fairly well. I mean, I think that like most of us, there are times in our lives, especially our teenage years or our early 20s, when we are struggling to find ourselves. But from my perspective, it gave me a pretty solid grounding. Converting to Judaism was a choice of values. Growing up Latina was an inculcation of values. You know what we do. We work hard, we get stuff done, and we don't worry about who takes the credit for it.
Right, right. Well, you know, watching you right now is because I've seen you in your power suit standing up in front of people. And one trait of Latino leaders is if you look at you right now, you're one of our sisters, you're one of our friends, our comadres, our, you know, Latinos don't change just because they go into positions of power. And, you know, they keep their same values, their same continents. And so when you walk down the street, you can't tell who the Latino leader is. Because they look like
Well,
they look like everyone else.
I also try to talk the way I've always talked,
Yeah,
rather than in word salad or talking points.
yeah. So here's your dad. He's a lawyer, and I know you came to the United States as a teenager to pursue your education. What was that like? Had you been going back and forth, or were you basically in Puerto Rico most of the time?
I was in Puerto Rico. I mean, I'd been in the States a couple of times, either on vacation, and there was an ill-fated experiment where my mother decided that I needed she needed to try to send me to finishing school in Massachusetts. I think that lasted about 6 weeks.
And you were finished with the school.
Yes, I was. I was calling home collect 3 times a day. It was all good. But I graduated from high school in 1975 and went to Philadelphia to go to college and New York to go to law school. And all I can tell you, Juana, is for someone born and raised in the Caribbean, 7 winters in the Northeast was enough.
Oh, wow.
So,
That's why
yeah.
you've been in California 40 some years.
I came straight out of law school and I never left. I love California.
So when you came to this country as a teenager, were there some cultural shocks, or how did you feel? Like you said that you had a hard time fitting in Puerto Rico. So now you've made another jump to the mainland. And what was that like, as far as, because there's so many of us that have had made that transition?
I had a little bit of culture shock. In 1975, there was still a lot of identity segregation in the United States and racial segregation. And
You're
at
just
least in
saying that because you live in LA. It's still here.
Okay, I live in LA.
LA
We're
is
a
great.
very
LA.
diverse city. Okay.
Your most diverse city, yes.
But I remember my freshman year, I was standing next to a senior who was telling a story about getting mugged in New York. And he made a very ugly reference to a Puerto Rican. And I kind of just looked at him and I said, Bill, do you know where I'm from? And he said, oh, you're from New York. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I said, no, try further south. Washington, D.C., no, further south. Florida? Well, how about south and east? And you could see the light coming on in his eyes because he had said, I can smell a nasty word for a Puerto Rican a mile away. And when I said south and east, he got backed up and I said, I guess your sense of smell isn't working today. Mucho gusto, caballero. And I walked away.
Well, I see this as preludes to you being the city attorney because you kept your cool.
I did. I did, but it was ugly. It was the first time I
was
had
very
seen that
ugly.
kind of ugliness.
Yeah, and I always admire lawyers because I'm such a passionate person. It's hard for me, but you really do learn to be able to deal with conflict in a way where it doesn't ruffle your feathers as much, I think.
Juana,
Or
it's not hard for you at all. I have seen you, my friend, and you stand your ground with the
Oh, I
best
do
of
stand
us.
my ground, but I get very upset.
Um,
But I think it's like what you said about your identity. Once you decided I'm both, that's an advantage. I feel the same way about here you are at Swarthmore, here you are. You went to Columbia Law School, right?
yes.
And here you are in these prestigious institutions of learning, and you've had to maneuver this. And again, it's your strength today. It's what makes you who you are. It's what has prepared you to do the great work that you're doing right now. So I mean, that's how I feel about our culture is that they can't stop us now because we not only have the intellectual capacity, we have the experience and we've overcome. So we've done all those challenges.
And in the
Well,
city of LA, we are the majority. We have
yes,
surpassed the 50% mark as
Latinos.
Latinos as residents of
Well,
the
let's
city
have a
of LA.
moment of celebration. Now let's make that count, right? We got to make that count. Well, anyway, I remember when you were running for city attorney and what an uphill battle it was. Give us a little bit of this. Look, so that the women that are listening can understand you can set a high goal and you can keep moving forward. First of all, what inspired you? You're sitting there going like, whoa, I can be city attorney.
I didn't know whether or not I could be. That's the fair thing. So let me start with the message. Run for something. If you are at a point in your life where you're ready to lean in and do some good, we all need to run. I don't care if it's the community college or a school board or a city attorney or an assembly member or a House of Representatives, anything.
Yes.
Our government needs you. We need people with ideas. We need people with commitment. We need ordinary citizens who remember what it's like to, be out there rather than within the halls of City Hall as a career. And so I encourage everybody I meet to try to run for an office. What inspired me? There's both a push and a pull. The push is I had lived here for 42 years. I was retired. And I looked around my city and I wasn't happy with what I saw. From my perspective, we had a lot of corruption. I mean, I don't think that's a secret. There were a number of trials for corruption, both civil servants and elected officials. We had a terrific problem on our streets with a very large unsheltered population and spending way too much money to build substandard kinds of transient shelters. And it didn't really seem to be getting better.
Yeah. And plus you live in a neighborhood where there was that change coming and people were getting displaced and so many homeless on the street,
Well, people were getting evicted. People were getting kicked out of their homes. Everything was being kind of rolled out. And COVID, I think, made us all stop and think, and it brought us all home so that we had to stop and pay attention to what was going on around us, as opposed to going around our busy lives and just getting used to it every day. So that's the push. The pull and the inspiration was my father passed away in March of 2020. And if you read my father's story, he was amazing. I mean, my father was a corporate lawyer by day and a do-gooder by night. He basically took on the rights of the incarcerated in Puerto Rico in the early 70s when, the rights of the incarcerated wasn't anything that anybody thought about.
Right.
And he shut down an old prison that was basically, a Spanish dungeon called La Princesa. And Papa just always did good. When he passed, even though he'd left the island 25 years before, his death was front page news in Puerto Rico. And people just remembered Don Stanley, and they remembered everything that he did. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, my father was 98, my mom is 90, I'm 61. If, genetics is in the numbers. I have a third of my life in front of me. What am I going to do with it?
I love this because I was just saying on my last interview, retirement does not exist.
I really wanted to try to lean in and to help. And so I decided to run. I looked at the field. It was an open seat. I don't think I would have taken on an incumbent because I was a complete unknown. But it was an open seat. And it was something where I thought to myself, I can do this. It's a job that I can do. And I ran. You want the ups and the downs? Here's the
Well,
story.
I do know that you had a lot of legal experience, so you had the qualifications, which is also important for people that want to run, is prepare yourself like you had.
Yes. I mean, I was a partner at 2 large international firms. I had run groups of lawyers before. As I used to say on the campaign trail, managing lawyers is a little bit like herding cats, and they don't fall into place. They don't like do what you want them to do. And sometimes that change breeds, I don't know, some difficulties when you're trying to implement it. But I thought it was a job I could do, and I thought it was a job I was committed to do. I squeaked by in the primary with 136 votes
Listen up,
out
people. Listen to
out
how
of a
important it
million
is.
cast.
Wow.
So for anybody out there who doesn't want to vote or who thinks your vote doesn't count, I'm here to tell you you're wrong. Every vote counts. Every vote. Down ballot, up ballot. I don't care which way we vote, but Latinas and Latinos, we have to get out there. We have to vote. Otherwise, our voice doesn't get heard. Otherwise, we don't elect our leadership. Otherwise, our communities and our perspective aren't represented in the hallways that make the laws that govern our lives.
And it's not only that, it's that today we really need new leadership. So it's not just, and we need Latinos in those positions. And it's never going to happen unless we keep building and moving up and up and up.
And I ran for office for the first time at the age of 62. No prior involvement in politics. So please, anybody who thinks they're going to retire, think again.
So was there any period in that campaign where somebody said, what, estás loca?
Almost every day.
Almost every day.
I called friends and family and former partners. I mean, I'd get reactions like, oh, come on, you're not really running for office, Hydee, are you? And it'd be like, well, yeah, kind of. All right, I'll give you some money,
I
but
got to tell you what,
you're going to lose.
you outworked every candidate as well. You should talk about that. You outworked them.
I was on the phone or at events for 8-10 hours a day, 7 days a week, the whole campaign.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did. And, when I had a free moment, I'd pick up the phone and call. I called friends from high school and college and law school and former clients. People were fabulous. They were very kind to me, but I could tell that they all did it a little bit skeptically. Okay, Hydee, we're going to go along with you, but you're not going to win.
So what do you think was the turning point?
That I got through the primary.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, that's what it was.
Yeah.
I remember that the night of the election, and this is also something to recall, I was down by 5,000 votes. And I thought that was it. So I stayed up and I wrote a letter of concession, and I was congratulating the top 2. And it was a very eloquent little letter about how I was going to go back to my life as a private citizen, etc. And I sent it to my campaign team. And I said, I want your comments because I want to send this out by 10 o'clock. And it's the only time in the whole campaign my consultant yelled at me. He picked up the phone and Rob said, don't give up the ship. Our entire strategy was based on the educated voter, the informed voter, and those come in late. Don't you dare give up the ship. And
We need people like that on our teams.
He would not let me concede.
Yes, what a wonderful thing.
Yeah. So it was all very serendipitous. And yet now that I'm in this seat, Juana, and I'm where I'm meant to be. I am a very different city attorney, I think, than my predecessors. I treat this job seriously, but not too seriously. And I do feel a calling to improve the institution, to modernize it, to bring it into the 21st century, to make sure that we are doing things exactly right, to make sure that I am shutting down whatever practices and whatever portals there may have been that allowed the scandal and the corruption from the last administration to occur. And I am putting the office, I think, in really good shape to serve the city and to serve its residents in a much better way. And that makes me feel useful.
Oh, well, not only that, but the women I'm interviewing, we have this sense of destino or purpose. And when you said, and if you look at your life, it's really been leading you to this point, and that's real important for us to reflect. Even where you went to college and the people you met and the corporate experience you've had and living in the same community and being in a gentrified community, all these things that are telling you things are not right. And so I think that's such an important thing for our women to think about, for Latinas to think about. What is your purpose and what is your passion? And how can you really express that, regardless of your age? Because this really is an intergenerational change that we have to promote, with people like us helping the younger generation begin to assume power and run for office.
I will tell you that I use the word calling and I don't use it lightly. I do feel that way. I've taken some initiatives since I took office that are really important. Probably the nearest one to my heart is the effort we've made in connection with our law enforcement partners and some of my colleagues across the way at City Hall to shut down sex trafficking of minor children. So we have taken a very coordinated, concentrated approach to what's called the kiddie stroll. K-I-D-D, kiddie, children. KIDDIE stroll, where young, primarily girls, are taken out onto the street and trafficked for prostitution. We started an initiative last July. As of December 31 of last year, we had rescued 65 minors.
Oh, my heart.
The youngest of which was 12. Through May 31st of this year, we have rescued 85. So we're on a path to double last year's results. I've taken legislation to Sacramento. I have made it my business to make sure that our kids have a pathway out of that life, because what happens to them once they're drawn into it is horrific. I've also taken a signature initiatives for small businesses and local businesses and trying to open up the city's contracting process to let our entrepreneurs who are right here in the city bid for and do business with our city, because I think they have a vested interest in our success. So I've taken some bills up to Sacramento to protect local businesses and to protect the city coffers from ridiculous judgments. And I've made it my business to shut down pathways to corruption, to start an investigation into my own office and to look at how we do things and make sure that we're doing it right.
Explain to people how this kind of corruption works in government. Is it like contracts that they give to friends, or how do you, or gifts that they get, or what are some of the ways this shows up?
I'm not going to speak about my city in particular because I am the city attorney for the city of LA. I would say that in general, whenever you deal with other people's money, okay, and that's true for large public corporations and it's true for government because we're dealing with taxpayer dollars. But whenever you're dealing with other people's money, there is a tendency to simply, it has a laxness to the business practice that allows the dispersal of the funds to sink to the lowest common denominator. Other people's money is something that ought to be a fiduciary standard.
Right.
It means that you need process, you need procedures, you need to be sure that there are levels of approval and there are guardrails so that the liabilities of the city are not overstated or overinflated. And so that the revenue of the city finds its way where it's supposed to be, and that the contracting process for city business is fair. So to give you examples, I recently put into all of my outside council contracts, we're still in the process of implementing this, a provision that says that council recognizes that the payment of referral fees, related to city business is illegal. You can't do it. And it's that simple. It's putting third parties on notice that we at the city expect the obvious. I
Right.
shouldn't have to say it, but we do. And I've also been requiring our departments to bid out contracts so that they're not being awarded just to friends and family.
Mhm.
I don't know if there was anything untoward before. I'm not going there. What I'm doing is I'm addressing the pathways that could be problematic and cleaning it up that way.
Yeah, and you know that's so important for the city attorney to take a lens on that and to begin to act as, and you do act as the attorney for the city, not just for the people, but also for the institution of the city. And that is an important role because you're the watchdog in a sense for those kind of things.
Yes and no. I have two clients. One is the municipal corporation that is the city of Los Angeles.
Yep.
And attorney-client privilege obtains there. And it's not my job to investigate my city, but it is my job to make sure that the city operates within its authority and its limits. The second client I have is the people of the state of California. And whether as a criminal prosecutor, I'm only responsible for adult misdemeanors within the city of LA, or as a civil prosecutor, protecting the rights of consumers, doing environmental justice, taking care of nuisance abatement, doing the kinds of work that people often can't band together and do for themselves. Those are some of the most satisfying aspects of what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
And I don't do it alone. I have a whole team of
Yeah.
dedicated,
550
hardworking
lawyers
and over 1,000 legal professionals.
and 1,000 legal professionals. I remember when you were running, when I think one of your strongholds was that you'd managed lawyers before, because it's kind of an oxymoron, you know, managing lawyers. And,
Exactly.
and you were able to pull forth on that kind of thing. So, you know, for our young people listening, I want you to tell them how you felt when you were elected, but also why do this? If you could be sitting at home on the beach, what are your incredible benefits that you get from this incredible new? It's a new phase of your life. It's a whole new impact. Because a lot of people do retire, and a lot of people say, "Well, why should I take that next step in leadership?"
Well, the question is, how many heirloom tomatoes can I grow in one lifetime? I love them, but you know, my tomatoes and my cucumbers are especially great this year. Look, somebody said to me, "Are you having fun?"
Uh-huh. Yeah, because this is
That-
sexy. Is this sexy?
My job is not. Being the mayor might be, right? Being a council member might be. My job is really about making things work. If you, like me, like to do jigsaw puzzles or crossword puzzles, right? If you like to tinker and make things work well, this job, I get up every day. And here's the truth. I'm never bored, because whatever my schedule says for the day, I get in. And I promise you, there are 3 little piles of things on my desk that I didn't expect. I feel useful every single day. I feel as if I have the opportunity to do good and improve the lives of other people. And that gets me up in the morning. And at the age of 66, that's pretty good. That's a
I
good
think
thing
it's
to do.
fabulous. It's reinventing age, really.
And the third thing is that it is my honor and my pleasure to serve not only with the folks in my office who really work so hard and are so dedicated, but with a mayor who is fabulous. She and I will never forget, when we were both elected, we said, well, why don't we meet? Because we hadn't really met. We'll have a short lunch. And what was supposed to be a 45-minute lunch turned into a 2.5-hour lunch where we still hadn't run out of things to say. So from that first meeting, I have lunch with the mayor. We try to have lunch at least once a week. And it's really made an enormous difference, because in the whole history of the city of Los Angeles, the mayor and the city attorney have never really gotten along, because the city attorney always
Well,
wanted.
this is 2 women and 2 women of color, because she's an African American.
Right.
And I think this is so exciting because people may not know, but you know, the city of Los Angeles is like how many millions of people live there?
3.9 million, but who's counting?
3.9 million. That's way over how many people are in Puerto Rico, right?
Yeah, it's about the same for the whole island. San Juan is about 1.5 million. Yeah.
1.5 million. But this is and so it's really like running a small country, I guess you might say.
We are the second largest city in the country. We are right behind New York.
Uh-huh.
Now, New York is much bigger than we are with the 5 boroughs and the vertical density, but we are the second largest city. And if you take LA County has 12 million residents. So it's we are leading the nation in all kinds of ways. And yes, you have an historic partnership between 2 women of color in 2 of the citywide elected positions. The 3rd citywide elected position is held by a young Filipino. So at this point,
my ears.
LA is really the face of diversity for the country.
That's so beautiful. So we have Black, Latinos, and Filipinos working together in order to make the city great.
We do. And we also have a city that is a mosaic. And I have to do one plug for my office. I am so proud that last month, my office was awarded the Gold Seal by the State Bar of California for diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Whoa.
I am the only city attorney's office in the state of California awarded a Gold Seal. And, San Francisco has a silver, San Diego has a bronze. We got the gold.
That goes along with the Olympics, that's for sure. And the thing is that having that kind of recognition around diversity and inclusion is so important. So if you were going to say to somebody, here are the benefits of having this kind of an office with diversity and inclusion, give us 3 things that really make it strong.
Diversity and inclusion, weave it into the fabric of everything you do. Don't just appoint an equity officer and put that person in a corner office and say, thank you very much. Make sure that what you're doing is you're building in those values, that opportunity, and that structure into your hiring process, into your contracting process, into your promotional opportunities, into your partnerships and your providers. For example, on my human trafficking project, I realized we didn't have a single Spanish-speaking provider for the sex trafficking kids we were pulling off the street.
Wow.
And some significant percentage were monolingual Spanish. So I went out and I found providers who spoke Spanish. And it isn't that you tie it up that way in anything in particular, but you serve your community. You serve everyone around you, and you do it by being inclusive and reaching out. And I've tried very hard to do that. And I'm very honored that the state bar recognized it in that way.
Yeah. Well, what I'm trying to get to, or what are some of the gifts that kind of inclusion brings, in addition to having people being able to relate to and identify with people, having a lot of diverse talent because of our experiences. In other words, what's the case for this?
Oh my goodness. Well, among other things, if what you're doing is you're taking an institution that has been set in cement, for decades, at least a quarter of a century, and you're trying to bring it into the 21st century, having the perspectives of the people who come from different backgrounds with different ideas, working together to serve all of our communities and all of our residents, and bringing the office into the 21st century, whether or not we want to go there. It adds book smarts from people who have different experiences. It adds EQ from people who come at it with different temperaments, and it adds effectiveness because it allows you to see around corners. I have one chief deputy who I call Miss C around corners, who happens to be Latina, It allows you to bring the perspective that avoids mistakes, that lets you move forward in the most efficient, effective, and intelligent manner.
Well, I also think we can throw in commitment there. I mean, when I'm sitting here looking at you and the commitment that you have and the other Latinas that we're interviewing, the kind of commitment that we have to our communities. And also, I guess, I teach it as servant leadership, but the whole idea that leadership is not about us, it's about the people we serve. And that, getting yourself too wrapped up into the leadership influencer position is not where you want to go. You want to stay so that you're connected to the people that you serve and the people that you're trying to uplift.
I don't know if you remember, But early on when I met you, you and I had a conversation and we both agreed on a couple of things. The most important of which was it is amazing how much we can accomplish if we don't worry about who gets the credit.
Exactly.
And I think every Latina I know exemplifies that value. We lean in, we get the work done, don't care who gets the credit as long as the work gets done.
Yeah, that's a beautiful attribute that we bring. And I do think if we can get enough people into the positions like you have, we really can transform our society and go back. This whole thing now, we're not going back. We are going back. The whole political debate right now, it's never about going back. It's always about the evolution and the transformation of our country, of our citizens, and of our institutions. And so we have that responsibility to keep lifting everything up and bringing it into a modern context and into today's world.
I'm probably going to slide a little bit and say this year I'm more interested in preserving. Okay. I'll worry about uplifting after November. Like for right now, let's just keep it safe. Okay?
Let's just try to keep our democracy afloat.
Exactly.
So looking at the fact that we celebrate Hispanic heritage, we celebrate being Latinas. I want you to give some parting words as well about what is so great about Latina leadership and about our culture that you want to really have people connect with, promote, and kind of advance.
We lead with joy. We lead with laughter.
I was going to ask you about that because this interview is kind of serious. Are you having fun?
I don't describe it as fun, but I am joyous in my life. Yes. I don't think I express the joy as well as our vice president does, but I think that she sets an example for us all.
Yeah.
This is a time to be joyous. This is a time to be celebrating. Hispanic Heritage Month is an acknowledgement that we are all connected. I don't care if you're coming from the diaspora of any one of our countries, whether it be Nicaragua or Puerto Rico or Mexico or any place else. I don't care if you come from the Cuban community in Miami or the Puerto Rican community in New York or the Chicano community in New Mexico. I don't care if you're from the old Mexican families who honestly have been here for many generations, long before California was established as a state of the Union. We celebrate each other. And so what I want to wish everyone this Hispanic Heritage Month is to tap into that joy, to find that common identity, and to lead with heart, with compassion, with commitment, and with intelligence, because that is what we Latinos do best.
Well, that's such a beautiful thing to say. I just love it. And the thing is that it really is our time to do this. And one of the principles of leadership that I keep promoting is that Latinos really do celebrate life. We celebrate our culture, we celebrate each other, and we need that joy in order to make our work not only meaningful but fulfilling and to keep it on. You can't keep the course if you don't enjoy the process. So,
and we have to teach everyone to dance a little bit of salsa. Good for them.
Well, they can have tacos on Taco Tuesdays, and they can learn to salsa, and then they can embrace like mi casa su casa, our generosity. And then, of course, I do want to say something about Bad Bunny before we turn off. Bad Bunny tells us all que debemos hablar español, that we need
Cuando quieras, mi amor.
Y que tenemos que tener orgullo in our cultura and who we are. And
como decimos en Puerto Rico, huepa, para arriba y para adelante.
Anyway, Heidi, what a pleasure talking to you. I hope there are tons of young Latinas who are going to be signing up, not just to vote, but to work for candidates. In Colorado, we have a congressional Hispanic congresswoman who's running again, Idira, and she's a physician. So wherever you are, Arizona, we have a Latino running for Senate. We have so many Latinos and Latinas running today. Please get involved and look at what you get when you get a Latina elected to city attorney. You get someone with integrity, with intelligence, with love for the country, love for the community, and someone who says, I'm not retiring, I'm just getting started. Love you,
Well,
Heidi.
thank you,
Love
Juana.
you so much. Thank you from the bottom of my heart and from everyone who's listening for your commitment to our people. It's really a wonderful thing to talk about and to learn about. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. I look forward to the next one. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month.
Yeah, this is our time.